You are now in the realm of enlightenment and transformation.
Welcome to Chief Speaks.
All music performed and produced by you.
Enlightenment comes from allowing yourself to journey through the dark shadow of death, the primordial abyss of wisdom's waters. For it is the treasures and mysteries that lie waiting in the dark that transform us and propel us to a new enlightened state. One should never aspire to live in the light nor the dark, but should journey between the two in order to evolve the overall reality into a self-actualized creation. Knowledge is your light, as wisdom is your darkness. The bold interplay of the two in your life leads you to an enlightened understanding of yourself and the inner verse you've created. Male is your enlightenment, female is your transformation, child is your evolution. Woman, accept the light into your darkness, so it may enlighten you. Man, go bring your light boldly into the darkness, so that it may transform you. Enlightenment and transformation.
I love you so much because you just don't know what you've just done for me. Thank you so much.
Wow. This is like the best call I've had in ages on BTR.
So this show was meant for me to be able to hear today, and I'm so thankful.
That's his home.
Therefore, now a new pathway has now been cut in order to get to the Almighty, where there may not have been one. So the communication with them, if they have enough power and strength to talk to us, the communication will be very
clear. That's one of the reasons I don't get into the current events thing too much, because it starts to become a perpetual alarm clock that we just keep hitting snooze on. I speak to the ascended masters, quote unquote. I talk about spiritual stuff, but I also speak about some very practical, we can do today things.
Be as natural as you can be with your spiritual. You can't always go by your feelings, because your feelings are corrupted. Your feelings are just as corrupted as everything else, your chakras and everything else. You got to know what's beyond you, and that's why we have elders. We can't do everything. You can't get everything out of books or weekend certification. You can have the most powerful, ancient, oldest, most, as far as you know, truthful tradition in your hands, and if you still have a dirty spirit, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to learn anything. You're not actually going to grow. I try to teach in a way where I make myself obsolete. That's always been my goal, to make myself obsolete.
I really wanted to, kind of big you up. I think you're awesome.
There's a lot of elders out here right now that want to know what's going on. They're not getting on Twitter and stuff like that, but they want to be up on the new stuff. Sit down and have some conversations with them. It's not always about hearing their story. It's also about being news reporters for them and letting them know, like, yeah, this is what's happening right now. They may tell you something about what happened in Charleston that you couldn't even. Your spirituality has to create sane spiritual family. Okay, and that family exists first inside of you. You have to express the different expressions of that rainbow coalition of spirits inside of you first. Okay, don't let communities hijack that rainbow. See, the problem is when we come into the conscious community, the dudes are doing the same thing that the women are doing.
I just want to say that I really enjoy your show every Sunday, and my friend and I call it going to church. When we call in, we'll be like, you going to church? And I'm like, where have y'all been at?
God cannot go against its own truth. So anytime you have an inkling that God is going against its own truth, then God is no longer behaving as God. So therefore, the spiritual community doesn't recognize God. You dig where I'm coming from? Or can we have a new thought? Can we step outside of the books for a second and have a new conversation about hair weaves and wigs? Can we have a new conversation about homosexuality? Can we have a new conversation about vegan eating? We doing right. It's a good day for exorcism.
347-945-7680. Call in and let's build.
Greetings, peace everyone. Welcome to another segment of Chief Speaks. This is the end of the month show, and I am one of the hosts, Kim. Where are my other people? Are you there?
Mwachi, this is Taya.
Greetings, Sister Taya.
Greetings.
Mama, sister.
I know
Sister Kim, Sister Taya, what is going on?
Everything is great, Brother Zach. What's up?
I can just tell by your energy that everything is just wonderful over there, Ty. I love it. Everything is great with me. Feels good to be home. Feels good to be back.
Yes,
yes. Brother Charles is on as well. Charles, are you there?
Yes, I am,
Charles.
man.
Okay.
Greetings and salutations to everybody, man. How's everybody doing,
brother?
Peace.
All right.
Yeah, we're
Zach,
about to have a great show today, man. I can feel it.
That's right. I can feel it.
I'm glad you said that. Good. Sounds good to me. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to make a few quick announcements about some things that are going on. And for those of you who are listening who are new to the show or new to ANU and some of the things that we do, I just want to invite you all to sign up for classes at SaduluHouse.com, SAD as in dog, ULUHOUSE.com. And that is the school component of ANU Nation. So a lot of times we get emails asking, where do I get started? What do I do? So you would go to Sadulu House to sign up for classes. If you'd like to start there, we have the free Orisha class as well as the ANU Spiritual Training Phase 1. And then we also have some other class-based webinars that cover different spiritual concepts. If you'd like to sign up for the newsletter, you can go to anunation.org. And if you're already familiar with who we are and what's going on, you can go to anulifeglobal.org to sign up and join us and let us know how you can contribute to the movement and contribute to what we're doing. If you're interested in some of the archive shows, that is, if you're like a student and you're taking the class, you're reading Grasping the Root of Divine Power, but you're still kind of fuzzy on some concepts, make sure you check out all of the old archive shows on enlightenmentandtransformation.com. You can also find us on YouTube at the same name. So there you have it. So if you're wondering how to get started, that's where you go. The books, classes, all of the shows, those are all excellent resources to find out what we're doing, who we are, and how you can participate. Also, I wanted to mention that I started like a little campaign on Instagram. As some of you may know, I host community radio on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern. And we started a cigar campaign. And it's just talking, I wanted to start it because I was kind of called to talk, to, I guess, build a relationship with tobacco, to really understand the spirit of tobacco. And so I thought about this cigar challenge. So what we're doing is just, I'm just sharing some things that I've learned about tobacco as it pertains to spirituality. And share your pictures. Taya has shared an awesome picture with us so far. The hashtag is Serious Smoke, SIRIUSSMOKE. If you'd like to share your pictures and kind of join in on us as we learn a little bit more about different healing properties and things of tobacco. So that's it. If I forgot anything, guys, please fill it in for me, and I'll yield the floor to Zach and Charles.
Okay. We gonna call folks out today, huh? All right. Well, we were talking about unity, 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 and just the biggest thing that stood out for me this month was in unifying with other people. And sometimes we start to find that it's hard for us when we go to other spaces and we go to other places, and it seems like we seem to be the common denominator of we can't fit in. And a lot of times we don't know that we can't unify with ourselves, so therefore we can't even unify with anybody outside of us. And I think he pointed that out when he was saying, like, if you go to do a ritual with Eshu and you want to connect externally, but first you have to connect internally. You have to become it to connect with it. And a lot of times we're so at war with our own selves that it's hard for us to go into any type of groove, any type of group, and have some type of communion, some type of communication, some type of dialogue, because the dialogue that we have with ourselves is so jacked up. And he pointed that out in the first show, I think, when he was answering somebody's question. He was saying that, change your words, because you're never by yourself. You're always with yourself. You are your most intimate companion. So when you're with yourself, if you have internal lunacy going on, well, then there's going to be no internal unity. And if there's no internal unity, well, then every time that you go into a different space, you're going to bring that garbage that you've been fed from this society that is going on inside of you, saying that, I can do everything, I can do this all. And then you're going to bring that over here, and then other people are going to start to show you, saying, wait a second, let me show you a mirror to show you that, you know what, you bring in, like you said, your car is smoking. Your bumper's falling off on the back. I don't know if you had a chance to get out and take a look at this, but, your car is falling apart. And then the first thing that we want to do is saying, no, well, let's look at your car then. Ain't nothing wrong with mine. Everything is good over here. And the ego starts to protect you. Everything that you feel like you built to get to a certain point in your life. But at some point in time, we got to understand that the best addition comes through subtraction. They go hand in hand, and the best subtraction sometimes comes through addition. So you can't just be like, oh, yes, you're the greatest, and we love you, sister or brother, and you're doing this, but you said you need that negative at the same time so you can say, you know what, I no longer need what I have felt like I've become to unify with the group, to unify with everybody else. Now, we're not all doing the same thing, but at the same time, I don't need this to get to a space that I'm going to. I have to let this go in order to become something new. This is why I keep saying the old you must rot for the new you to give birth to. And that's a tough process for so many people, because you don't want to go through that change. You don't want to go through that, you want to be stuck in seeing things one way that you've been seeing it. And he said it in the beginning of the show, too, is like the rainbow coalition, and to express that rainbow, you have to become all those different shades and those colors. But a lot of times we just want to see it through that one shade, and we don't want to see it through any other shade. So that's kind of the opening that I've got from Unity. I leave it to Brother Charles.
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Brother Zach, for kicking the door open there for us, man, for the show. Appreciate that. I think, Brother Zach hit a lot of the strong points. Actually said a lot of what I was going to say. The only thing that I would add is that what really stood out for me was the idea of unity not being everyone doing the same thing, but everyone doing what they're supposed to be doing. And I think that's a huge part, because, I think a lot of times when we put together, whether it's groups or organizations or businesses or what have you, we think that unity is everybody doing the same thing, dressing the same way, talking the same way. And one of the things that really jumped out to me was when Chief was saying that it's really about the parts doing what they're supposed to do for creating the unity of self. And he used a great example of that when he was using the metaphor of the body. Your feet have a purpose. Your feet have to do what they have to do. Your hands have to do what they have to do. Your neck has to do what it has to do. If your feet try to do what your hands do, or if your whole body tried to do what your hands do, your body wouldn't even work anymore, because every place has this unique thing that it has to do. And so I thought that really stood out. Next thing, and Zach alluded to it, was the presence of what ego does to destroy and erode unity. Because, as Zach pointed out, the one point is our ego protects us. Our ego sometimes stops us from making the necessary change that we have to. But the other thing is sometimes that ego can, I don't want to be the person that's in the forefront, or I don't want to be the person that's responsible for the idea, or I want to be the person that's responsible for the organization, instead of understanding what our unique role is and realizing that unique role is vital to the whole organization or the whole community or the whole group, even if it's not necessarily a part of the forefront. And really humbling ourselves to realize the importance of our role and making sure that we're carrying that out to its fullest. And then last thing that really jumped out to me was, when Chief was saying towards, I think it was the end of last week's show, he was talking about how we can get very locked into playing stories of the parts of the unified team, and the warrior. He talked about last show you have to down to just that. So if I say, well, as a priest, I'm only going to focus on trying to be a priest, and I just want to be the best priest possible, and I forsake paying attention to those other parts, what I'm actually doing is my true understanding. Yes.
Brother Charles, just a second. You're breaking up quite a bit.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Thanks for that.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry about that. I guess I was getting too hyped there. Okay. So what I was saying is just the last part is that for me, if I'm focusing on being a priest, for example, or if I'm using that priest characteristic that Chief laid out, it's not just about me focusing on that. Yes, that is one level that I have to understand, but I also have to understand the thief. I also have to understand the warrior. I also have to understand the magician, because understanding all of those things is really about the self-mastery, really about achieving your level of personal divinity. And that, interestingly enough, just focusing on one of those things and getting locked into that still keeps you at a savage state. And, when we look at our Orisha tradition, we see so many people, and I know we've experienced and talk with folks who get caught into just dealing with their patron Orisha or the Orisha that crowns their head. And they say, well, I'm just going to focus on, being Shango because that's what I am. Or I'm just going to focus on being Oshun, and then not really realizing the community of all of these spirits working together, and that as all these spirits are reflections of Olodumare, if our goal is also personal divinity, then we have to then learn how to reflect and understand and utilize all of these Orisha as well. So those are the three things that really just jumped out to me. I thought this was really a great month of shows to really explain a lot of the philosophy that Chief has been laying down, for really as long as I've been speaking with him. And I thought it really kind of demonstrated roles, responsibilities, and it kind of gets back into something that comes out in the beginning of the show, when he's talking about the problems of the conscious community being that the men and the women are both doing the same things. Well, the point of it is that they can't be doing the same things because each part has a different role and responsibility that's vital and is also different. So I'll stop there.
Okay, Brother Charles. But that's the interesting thing you just said, too, though, is that, men and women can't do the same thing. But at so many times you see a lot of people where they feel like they can do the same exact thing that the other person, nah, man, well, I don't need this. No, we're here to complement each other. This is like a team. And in a team, you got to know your role. You can't be doing what the same this other person is doing. But before I go on, I'm going to turn it over to the women.
Sister Kim, you want me to go first?
Sure.
Okay. Well, those are beautiful perspectives, Brother Zach and Brother Charles. I think what stood out for me the most was the representation that Chief gave about the Western culture and how we're all just so sick from it because they gave us garbage. But then he talked about that lotus flower, and he talked about the lotus flower that came up through sewage. And that just really, kind of sent chills through me a little bit because it looks like the most beautiful and pure and powerful flower that it's supposed to be. But when you're born into toxins, you don't really operate the way you're supposed to. You don't really reflect the light like you're supposed to and so many other things. And so he started talking about the process of uprooting. And that is where most of us really, really have difficulty understanding, and that's when that ego kicks back in, because you can't even imagine the thought of someone taking you out of your foundation, even though it's toxic, and you have learned so much that you can see that it's toxic, but it's still so scary to get right. It's still so scary to accept that there is a better way of doing it. So that really hit home for me. And then also the focus of the goal being death. Like life is the ritual, the goal being death. I hadn't really looked at it that way. So knowing that we're always looking to figure out not only what the purpose is, but how to get there harmoniously so that we don't go back raggedy. That was huge for me. I think what Chief said was, do you want to go back, raggedy and broken down to heaven, or do you want to go back polished? And that thought was just like, wow, there's a choice, you know, you don't have to go back a certain way. So that was really important. And then also just, you know, with the community, people just not being accountable, like you destroy the community when you actually are not honest. And that's really big too, because I think in the last student segment we did, we talked about judgment and not wanting to say certain things because of repercussions and, you know, just trying to stay in our own lane. But it's that process of not being truthful with people and even being truthful with yourself that keeps us where we are. And so those are all really big pieces for me.
Okay. Good. Thank you, Taya.
Good stuff. Thank you.
I guess I'll put in my little part. I wanted to kind of piggyback on what Brother Charles said. Some of those points stood out to me as well. And when you spoke about the body being a product of unity, and I remember Chief saying that, you know, unity is produced. It's not a concept such as, you know, wearing the same clothes or everybody just saying, you know, brother, sister, we're all friends. You know, that's not unity. And I think he said it's like a place that you arrive at, and everything working together towards the same higher purpose or goal. That's what unity is. And so, like he used the human body cells as an example of every tiny little part working towards a higher purpose, and the body was the result of that purpose. And so he said that unity is more of a noun than the way we use it. So that kind of stood out to me as well, because when I look at different movements, I think about maybe like the Nation of Islam when Brother Malcolm was active. And I look at that and I see that was that organization at the time, you know, working towards the higher purpose of that particular organization. And you had so much disunity among some of the members, because once everything got rolling, you know, everybody's own agenda started to come out. You know, it became more about, well, I want to be the spokesperson, or I don't like this person I don't like him being out front. I want to be out front. And so everybody's kind of, you know, their own internal agendas or desires or wants or whatever started to come out, and certain people started to forget about the initial imperative. And so I think that's a trap that sometimes we fall into. We're creating different organizations, or when we're trying to get a group together, and it just comes out, you know, and it's because, you know, maybe before we formed the group, we didn't do that inner work, which is, you know, why the Anu spiritual training phase 1 is so important, is doing the inner work first before you can start to try to come together with somebody else, or trying to come together under, you know, under Anu culture, you know, so that we don't come in trying to bring our other cultures or other understandings to what we're doing. And it also made me think about just studying under a teacher. I think you spoke about this as well when on the first show about unity. You have to surrender to that teacher, whomever it may be. It doesn't have to be chief, you know, whatever it is you're studying. You have to surrender to that teacher. Come under the imperative of what you are trying to participate in, instead of trying to push your own agenda or try to, you know, find a way to fit your old stuff or your old, you know, all your old junk into that particular culture. You have to let it go. You got to kind of just be a blank slate and just, you know, submit. And so I think that that's a difficult, especially when you get older. You know, you got about 30 years in. You're about 30 years old. It's really hard to become a baby again. It's like, okay, forget everything you ever knew. Now you got to learn how to talk to people all over again. You got to learn how to greet each other again. You have to learn how to, you know, just be respectful of each other all over again, because it's something completely different. And I think that's the hardest thing for adults to do, because, it's almost like it's a huge blow to your ego to find out, 30 years later, I don't know how to talk to people, or I don't know, I don't know how to be respectful of other people, or I'm not courteous, or I'm not, it's like I've gone through life, I've gotten this far. What's wrong with me? It's not me, it's everybody else, So to come to that realization and have to drop all of that and just, like I said, be a baby again and to learn again, it's so hard for adults. And I think, and that's when, we want to start these organizations or start groups as damaged adults. And so when you don't have that unifying goal or that initial imperative where it's defined and it's outlined and it's put in place, or what we call culture, when it's not there and everybody has a different culture, it's not gonna work out. It's gonna die, because we can go back to Chief's other book, Solutions to Dysfunctional Families. Culture is a living entity. So to try to exist in one space or more than two, one's always gonna seek to dominate, and so you're gonna always have these internal conflicts, and nothing's ever going to be produced from that. So everybody has to kind of unify under that same goal in order to get it done. And I don't think that we really understand that, when we try to form these different groups. It's tough, So that's kind of what I got, along with the show on the 4 keys to creating unity. That was a heavy one too, when he broke down the different characters, like in Dungeons and Dragons and all of these different shows. You just see it repeated throughout a lot of science fiction movies. And so, all these entities, even though they're presented separately in different movies, they all reside within you. So you have to kind of know when. You have to recognize which one needs to be a little bit more developed, within you. It's just like, what you're saying, I think it was Brother Charles, about they all exist within you. You just have to decide, which one you need to select at the proper time, So all the shows were huge, and yeah, that's what I got.
When you was
just a second. I was just going to announce we have quite a few callers on the line, so I just want to say what's up to everybody. And make sure you press the number 1 if you have a question or comment. And again, the number is 347-945-7680. Okay.
So I heard when you were speaking, and when Sister Taya, was 2 things that really stood out. When you were just speaking of, coming together, and it's hard to unify in different organizations because they haven't dealt with the toxins. And I heard Sister Taya kind of touch on it when Seth spoke a little bit about just being truthful. And before you can start to be truthful with other people, you first have to be truthful with yourself. And this is why a new phase 1 is ministry to self. Like, you have to be honest with yourself. And just what you were saying, Sister Kim, is, I don't know how to speak to other people. My energy that I bring into a situation is a bit much. How can I manage this to make this work for the group? And these are the truthful, honest conversations that you have to have with yourself. And if you're not ready to have those with yourself, and you go into another group and people start pointing this stuff out to you, and then the first thing you do is start to jump up and defend. Well, wait a second. You are not going to talk about me. You will not bring that. And I don't think people understand that we come from, language is very tonal. Even the language that we use now, we can say something and it can mean several different things, depending on the tone and the vibration that you put behind it. And when people, I don't think they understand is, when you say something, there's a vibration that you're giving off behind what you say. And people feel the energy behind the word that you just said. So now if your energy and your tone is going to be off, then people are going to be put off by it. So then all of a sudden, like, wait a second, man, you're taking this out of context, or you're doing, but again, these are the conversations that you have to have with yourself. And then once you come into a different group in a different setting, and you can have this conversation with other people where they're like, yeah, man, that's a bit much. And your response is going to be a little different once you've already had that conversation with yourself and acknowledged it in yourself and know that you're putting forth an effort to change it. But when somebody else points it out and you haven't dealt with it, the first thing you're going to do is lash out. First thing you're going to do is you're going to come out the gate swinging. Like, you put an animal into a corner and you back me up. Now, here I come. I'm going to come like a charging bull. Whoever wants it going to get it. Well, and then this is what happens, and then the whole organization starts to pull down. So kind of what kind of stood out when you two just were speaking.
I think that's a excellent point.
Yeah.
That's huge. And why does it always seem to pop up? Like, you go throughout life, and it always seems that message comes through strangers or people that you don't like, so you ignore it. You're like, oh, they just don't like me. They just don't like me. That's why they're saying that. They just don't like me. You just kind of discard it. But then when it comes from your family or someone close, that's when it hurts. But we were getting warnings all this time before. We just kind of discount it because it comes from somebody that we think has, something against us.
Or you have a family that operates the way you operate, and you had no idea you were so effed up until you got into another group.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if I can just jump in, this also too. I'm
sorry, Charles. Just 1 second. I don't want to lose our caller. We have someone with a hand up at 615, and then as soon as they finish, we can come right back. I do apologize.
Cool.
Okay, 615. You're on. Greetings.
How's everyone?
Peace.
Doing well. How about you?
I'm well, man. Y'all, like I said, y'all doing a great job on the show, man. It's been amazing. Like I said, this past week been a lot of good shows. When I was covering the topic of unity and how part of unity is from the show Thursday, showing compassion, just being considerate of what other people going through. When I was the best way for that, I tied unity with compassion and working with other people is the equivalent of somebody helping you get out of a parking spot. Let's say like you in a tight parking spot, you don't know how you gonna get out, but you got the big S-Class 500 backup camera, everything. I got the right vehicle. This car can back itself out, but I don't know how I'm gonna get out this spot because I'm between two SUVs. My insurance is $400 a month. I'm not gonna tip nobody's car. So when you really try to get out without tearing your vehicle up, you have to let somebody help you back out. So, hey, cut it to the left, cut it to the right. No, my right. And you have to listen to that person to help you get yourself out of the situation that you're in. And I think that's like a perfect example of unity when you with a group of people, and that your vehicle is good. That you got all the mirrors, cameras, and everything. But it's always that person on the outside looking in that can say, hey, man, if you cut it again, you gonna sideswipe that car. You might want to just turn it to the left a little bit. And I think that's, for community building and, just functioning within a collective, I think that's how we got to kind of operate and take your ego out of it and let people help you, get yourself to where you're trying to go.
Mhm.
And you just was speaking. Go ahead, Brother Charles. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying I agree with 100%. Go ahead, what you're saying. I'm coming after you.
Oh, what the brother was just speaking on to me just stood out when is trust. That's the whole thing that when you got to trust. If you backing out of a spot and somebody telling you, all right, you cut that a little more, you're going to hit this man's car, you got to trust this person behind you. And a lot of times what we don't have is trust in one another that I can't see what you see. You seeing something a little different than what I'm seeing, so I'm going to trust your eyes. I'm going to trust that you have probably seen a lot more cars backing out of these spots than what I have done because I just got this car. It looks good and it's beautiful, but I just got it, and I'm not as far along as this other person, so I'm going to trust your eyes to tell you, okay. And, to keep with what he was speaking on is this, that you can see some things that I can't. But in this society, we tell when we watch these movies and these videos, and I trust no one. I'm by myself and this is me. And nah, man, that ain't how it goes. Like, I got you. Even though, and sometimes though we get caught up in thinking that if somebody says something, it always has to be just, fun and flowers and beautiful roses and you're doing a great job and keep up the good work. And, thank you so much. But at the same time, somebody who's going to be truthful with you is going to tell you, you screwed that up. We run from that and we don't want to hear that. But again, this is when you got to trust, I trust your eyes and I trust your vision. That you're pointing something out that I'm going to hit some other people, I'm going to hit a car, and then I'm going to be in more trouble than what I am. And that's what we say, and then life becomes the ritual. Make the sacrifice for yourself before you have to sacrifice other things. Like, you don't have to sacrifice a chicken or sacrifice all of this other stuff. Sacrifice your own day-to-day life. You don't have to go to this club. You don't have to do all of this crazy stuff that you've been doing in your day-to-day lives, and then all of a sudden, a poor chicken that comes along that ain't got nothing to do with what you had to do in your life. Now, they got to sacrifice their say because you screwed up. I'm just saying.
That poor chicken.
Right. Yeah, no, I mean, just
Charles, you're breaking up again.
Yeah, man, you got to upload your prepaid minutes, brother. Your card's running out.
All right, can y'all hear me now, man?
There we go.
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. All right. See, I was trying to use the headset, but I guess that's not how it's supposed to be today. All right. So yeah, but first, to the brother with the analogy, or the metaphor, actually, that was really nice. I really appreciate that. The other thing is that to just go along with what Zach is saying, I think sometimes what we don't get is the compassion and the caring part, telling people things sometimes that we know they don't want to hear, but that we know needs to be said. And you have to care enough about somebody to tell them those things, because it's really easy to watch somebody screw up and not say anything at all, especially when you know that when you bring something to their attention, they're going to have a negative reaction to it. But you have to be willing to care enough to say to that person, hey, look, man, you're going off the tracks right now, and I'm trying to help you get back on the tracks, even though the person, sometimes is not going to want to hear that. And to what Sister Kim was saying before, life presents these people that come to us and try to get us on that right path. Those are sometimes those are our spiritual guides. Sometimes those are just, people that care about us, and maybe those are spiritual guides too, just manifesting in that physical form, that are really trying to get us right, get us back on track. But we have to be open to hearing that message, and sometimes when we're resisting those things, when our ego is in place, that's when we're not making those changes, because all those things are trying to help us to evolve. So, the compassion part is a huge connecting point to the concept of unity. And, you have to see value in someone else, and you have to care about them in order to really bring things to their attention that may hurt their feelings in the short run, but may really help them to be a better person in the long run. And in many cases, that's antithetical to the society we operate in. It goes without question that this is a very individualistic society. It's very much so based on get yours first, and then if somebody else gets theirs afterwards, so be it. And so there's not really a lot of emphasis put on people being able to work together or stay together for a long time. And we see that in businesses, you see that in families, you see it in marriages. It's very hard for people to stay together because the underlying theme of the culture is one that's supporting individuality. And so when we're talking about building real unity, you really have to put yourself in a position and with a culture and with a perspective that's going to resist this dominant culture that's really saying, just get yours. Or to the brother's analogy, just kind of seeing somebody struggling with trying to, pull a car out between two cars and just saying, oh, well, shoot, he got that expensive car. He need to figure out how to get out of there himself, because I don't have that type of car. I had a small car that I could drive. My small car would get out of there much easier than his. It's real easy for us to do that. But if we're really compassionate about somebody else, then we're willing to take that time to help someone else. So I thought that was a great analogy, brother. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And even speaking to that, go ahead, brother.
No, I was saying that like Sister Kim had said earlier, she had said, we go through part of unity is just looking at yourself and look at how you address people, the simple things that you do. So if you don't know how to talk to people, if you don't know how to, address people in certain ways, then, whatever you say is not going to be received anyway. That's like preparing somebody, a steak dinner with mashed potatoes and steamed carrots and macaroni and giving it to them on a trash can lid and expecting them to still want it. So I think a lot of unity, unity has a lot to do with compassion and understanding how a person thinks and giving them what they need in a way in which they'll actually receive it, as opposed to just forcing it down their throat because that's how you do it. Like you really got to check your ego when it comes to helping people and being helped by people. So like just when she said how you talk to people, and that's something I think that's real big for us diasporatic Africans, how we deal with each other. That evangelistic, you gonna take it whether you like it or not type mentality, and then wonder why people don't listen at you when you talk, even when you write. So I think that was big when Sister Kim said that about how you address people.
Yeah, I think that's really. Oh, go ahead.
I've been talking a lot, Sister Ty, so please.
I was just going to say this theme keeps coming up, and it's really important that we have to be able to meet people where they are. And you don't really know how to meet people where they are until you go through that process of self-ministry. So oftentimes we say things to people and get upset because they didn't receive it a certain way or what have you. But just think about the generations and generations, like women especially, we are a horrible mess. And we pass that down through the umbilical cord generation after generation after generation. And so not knowing where somebody is and not trying to change your words to speak to their spirit the way that they're going to receive it, or change however that presentation is to the way that they're going to receive it, is almost like unproductive because you're not going to get anywhere. So you have to be able to meet people where they are and speak to them in a way where they're going to get it in the first place.
And to me, I think that speaks to, again, the unity and the compassion. That they kind of go, once you start to come into some information, and just like the brother said, you're trying to help people out. You speak to people the way you want to be spoken to. So again, and you have compassion, and to me, compassion is nothing more than just seeing the world through somebody else's eyes. And I'm going to speak to you in a way that I'm really speaking to myself, because at the same time, where you're at, I once was. So it wasn't like I came into and I just know more and I do all of this. I listen to the way that Chief speaks, and he gives respect to everybody that he speaks to, even if it feels like some people like, oh, he's attacking me and all of that. No, he's just, and some people just need to be cut a little deeper than others. Some people need whatever the medicine that he's pulling. But at the same time, I'm looking at this like, some people are further ahead, and you can't be oppressive with the information that you have. You give it freely, and you speak to people, not at people. And I think that's a lot of times once we come into some kind of information, we feel like, oh, yeah, okay, I know a little more than you, so watch me run this down. Watch me call out this, watch me do this. Oh, yeah, that's a smart brother, right? Yeah. And then you feel it and then start stroking your ego, and then here we go. Now they feel like they got to defend their position. So, again, that's one of the ways that we can kind of hinder ourselves to creating unity, which, I mean, is a I'm glad you brought that up, and I actually posed that question to everybody listening. What are some of the ways that kind of hinder your progress in creating unity? And that's kind of one of the ways that I see it, is we can be oppressive with our information and telling people and talking at them and not to them.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody don't jump in at once now.
Okay, well, no, I'll jump in right with that. I think one of the things, and I think you just alluded to it, is the fear that if I give up everything that I have, I will cease to be special. So it's like for that person that has that knowledge or has that information, they're afraid that that fear that, if I share too much or if I give out everything I know, I'll cease to be important or I'll cease to be valuable or people will cease to listen to me. And that ego that forces you to try to covet information or try to covet your position, which really is saying that you don't want to evolve because you don't want to put yourself to a point where you have to continue to learn something new. And so, you try to suppress the learning of other people around you because you want to make sure that you can be in charge through the leveraging and manipulation of information. And, you see that happen a lot. Oftentimes it's encouraged in business to operate that way, and so it becomes one of those things that really damages unity because, when people can sense that and they can feel when you're not being genuine or when you're not sharing wholly, and it makes them resist sharing with you. And it damages the relationships between, people that are trying to work together and are trying to move towards the same goal.
And that's that. Go ahead, brother.
That's that.
I was saying that's that evangelistic hotepping. You got these recovering Christians who take that evangelistic Christian mentality of, is you ready for your Lord and Savior? If you ain't, you need to get in your Bible. But, you doing the same thing in the same energy, except you add hotep. Well, brother, you need to learn them 7 laws of hermeneutics. What you know about them 42 laws of Ma'at? Hotep, yada, yada, yada. That's that evangelistic hotep, where people sit up and they badmouth the church evangelistic, practices and dogmatic practices and condemning people. But you get conscious and all of a sudden you're looking down your nose at people because they're still eating bacon bits on the salad. Knowing it's a process you got to go through to detox that poison out. So, like, you right on that. People, become holier than thou with universal knowledge and forget that, okay, at some point you was eating pork chops with us at the family reunion too. Now let's not play crazy. So, like, that's real big. A lot of people, listen and they take other people's stuff and they say it like it's them, and then when they ask them where they get it from, say, well, let me get back to you. Your ego, you really get embarrassed that way. So I think that's real big with the black, quote-unquote, conscious collective when it comes to, like, keeping your ego out of your spiritual work.
Right. So that was a great question that you asked, Brother Zach and Brother D. That was great for you to come in with that. People feel like they're too good. So how do we determine when we've gone too far from our throne? Like, how do you know? What's that reality check that you give when you've moved too far from your throne?
When you get mad about stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Because,
So emotions.
I think Sister Kim had said that, because I had asked a question about, it was when we was doing the
Hold on now, wait.
I remember.
Get it right.
I remember. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I'm gonna call you out.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, but she said something because I was like, how do you know when you're operating from intuition or ego
versus ego?
And she said you always know it's ego when it's a strong emotion attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like the intuition, that quiet, still voice. Like you know you're doing too much, but the ego, man, come on, man, man, no, you ain't finna come at me. That's ego. And that took me out of the Stone Age right there. So yeah, that's how I know when I'm not operating at my highest authority is when stuff make me actually mad. That's when I know I done fell off the throne. Time to put the crown back on, calm myself down.
Okay, so it's just being in balance with yourself enough to know when you're out of order and you can feel yourself being emotional.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think a big piece with that, too, is at the same time, it's your ego speaking when you feel like you're the one that has to save everybody. And I'm the one that has to give you the information. And I'm the one that's going to, no, you're not the one. I mean, and I think to speak to what you just asked, Sister Ty, is, and I think that goes back to what Chief was saying, there's a fine line between, what was it, green tea or something?
Right, in Omiero, right.
Right. There's a fine line between, meeting somebody where they're at and speaking to them and then and stepping off your throne and then actually, telling them, you know what, you got to catch up. You gotta. It's about time now. I'm speaking not to the person who you are. I know the person that you can become, and I'm not gonna keep getting into these meaningless arguments or debates with you because it's going nowhere. Like you said, you never argue with the fool, because people from a distance, they don't know who is who. So now both of y'all start looking like two idiots just standing there arguing with each other. And then now you done stepped so far away from what you had become that you start to blend in with everybody else. So I think that just comes from, and I learned this from Chief now. Every time I see him speak, he look. I'm not gonna step away from who I am. I'm gonna tell you, and again, use the different medicines that I have coming from where I feel this person is at and what they need at this particular time. And I think that just comes from now you understanding the different energies that exist within inside of you. So therefore now we can call on these different energies when they're needed at different times. And this is how people can get trapped in a certain space. Is if I'm just a warrior and that's all I see is red, and that's all I see is when somebody calls, well then guess what? It's not going to be taken or received at the way that I'm giving it. You have to call on these different type of entities and energies that would exist within you, and therefore you have to master them. And again, that goes back to ministry to self. So it has to start with you, and then you'll start to see where people are at. You can see, and then you'll see sometimes where, you know what, I can't help you. I'm not the one that's going to do this, because the more that I start to talk to you, the dumber I start to become in these conversations that I have with you. It's sometimes I'm having conversations with religious people, and then the conversations just get so crazy. It's like, man, what are you talking about? Oh, yeah, well, this could happen. They could be fairies and grow wings and then just fly over there. Really? Really? So I think you just have to feel at some point in time, you just either you let it go or you when you can kind of feel when somebody is receiving it, and then you can kind of feel when somebody's not. And you never know what somebody internally is processing when you're speaking to them. So, I mean, you give them the information and then you let it go. There's no more to it than that.
Okay, I just want to interject just for a second. We've got a lot of callers on the line, and I just want to encourage everybody to join us in the conversation. The number is 347-945-7680. Just press the number 1 to be heard. If you have a question or comment about anything that Chief may have said this month, or anything along the things of unity, we're like at the halfway mark now. So, make sure you join in. Don't just kind of sit in the shadows and lurk, because we always get those callers like 10 minutes before the show ends. Everybody has their hand up. So I just want to encourage everybody. We don't know who you are. We can't see your face. So there's no need to be shy. We're all trying to learn together. So make sure you press the number 1 and participate.
And I used to, just to speak to everybody who's listening at the same time, at some point, I used to be the same way. When I first started, you feel like you just don't want to jump in. I don't want to say nothing stupid. I don't want to sound crazy. I don't want to. But at some point in time, you feel like, you know what, I have to get out of my comfort zone. And in order for me to get something new, I have to let something go. And it's me just standing here, just listening. Yeah, it's cool, but actually when you get out there, and Chief has said it many times, the more you start to give, and the more really you start to get back yourself. And the more you start to understand yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that you won't be corrected if you're wrong. But it doesn't matter. You're going to make mistakes in life. You always are going to make mistakes in life. But the thing is to make new mistakes. You don't want to keep repeating the old mistakes over and over again, because then that would be the definition of insanity. So you don't want to. So at the same time, just call in, hit the 1. We're not going to jump on you. All right, Chief, he's not on the phone, so he ain't going to jump on you. So you don't got to be afraid that he's coming in. We gonna show you love, yes. Come on in.
Okay, actually, we do have a caller with their hand up. I think it's an online call or a Skype call. Chief, you're on. Chief Speaks.
Hi, good dawn, and it's Georgette here, guys.
Good dawn, Georgette.
Georgette.
She's coming back.
I'm following up, yeah.
Thank you.
I actually just tuned in, so I don't know really much of what's been said, and I hope I'm vibrating within the whatever has been discussed. But I wanted to address an issue that occurred I would say last month call-in when I asked the question of the great panel there. And I didn't exactly respond in a way that I think was appreciative based on the response that was given. And I just wanted to apologize if I made anybody feel less than they were at the moment in the manner in which they were trying to aid me, because your answer was actually on point, based on the question that was asked. It was just me at the time. I was struggling with really expressing what it is that I was trying to receive, and I think I just responded just out of fluster. So I do apologize, guys. I do appreciate all that you do, and I receive your advice, just with sheer love and appreciation, and I just wanted to send that out to you, just to, show my gratitude and appreciation.
Thank you, Georgette.
Yes,
that was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, thanks.
Oh, you're very welcome. All right.
Thank you, sister. Shouts out to Sister Georgette. Just got off the 5K run.
Georgette has been showing a lot of growth. Thanks for that, sister. And I just want to remind everybody, we got like an hour left, so make sure you press the number 1 if you have a question or a comment, or you just want to, kind of add to what we're all saying. So less than an hour left to go. Make sure you call in. Don't just stand on the sidelines or wait to the last minute.
And Georgette just spoke to something that I think we all go through at a particular time. And I think when somebody says something to you, we focus on what we want to focus on. There might be a lot of great information that somebody gives you, but where you're at that particular time, you only hear one word, and then we magnify the one word that we hear, like, oh, you said I what? And then you miss all of the rest of the information that somebody gives you. And until we can step away and we can just pull our emotions out of it and see it for what it is, then we can start to grow and we can start to mature. It's almost like, when we have this view and vision of what good is and what bad is, and I only want to take what is good, or if this is what's bad. And it's almost like if you're playing in a tennis game, you might hit a bad shot. That might be good for the person who scored the point. That might be bad for the person who hit the shot. But to the ref that's sitting at the top or the chief, he's either looking at it in or it's out. There's no we're not looking at it. You don't go back and forth and fight with the information. It's either it's in or it's out. So once we're able to learn and step back and understand what the information is and take a broader view of what's going on, then we can start to soak in the information and actually build and go to a different who's in the kitchen? Somebody playing jacks or what's going on?
Zach, you gotta write a book. You gotta write a book with all these little sayings that you have, all these little quips. You gotta write it down. You have one for us all the time. You come with one every time.
I got one for you. Don't let the highs get too high or the lows get too low. You gotta stay on the even keel.
That's a spiritual right there, man. I think is that Brother Zach talking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's me, brother. That's me, brother. Go ahead. What you got?
I think what you just described. I don't think you could have described the principle of polarity any better. And I think in order to come into the understanding of these thought forms, that you have to depolarize yourself to a certain extent, or you won't get it, or you'll think, well, let's operate for the greatest good. How about let's just operate to stay balanced? Because I remember I was watching CNN, and it was Piers Morgan, and I think what's the dude, Alex Jones, and Alex Jones was on there. He was a firearms advocate, and Piers Morgan from the UK was like, what's the deal with Americans and guns? And he was like, maybe we should control these guns because Americans are kind of violent.
and that's why people are scared of people with guns. And Alex Jones pretty much had an aneurysm on the program to the point to where they had to cut the commercial because the vein in his forehead was about to pop. He was like, well, Mr. Jones, do you not understand why people are scared of people who are such advocates for guns? Because you on national TV about to have a stroke talking about your Second Amendment right to bear arms, and you're scaring everybody in the studio right now. So I think what, the analogy of the tennis in, one shot ain't good, the other shot is bad, I think that's a perfect way to describe depolarizing yourself. That way you can stand in the middle and really invoke that ma'at and see the balance on both sides. That way you're not operating, from one side to the other. You can really see the whole picture. I think that was brilliant how you described that.
Mm.
Great. So in this, go ahead.
No, go ahead, sister.
I was just going to say, in the spirit of, just keeping this unity conversation going, it's important to identify who we should be aiming to unify with. So what's the perspective on who you aim to unify with?
Well, I look at it like this. It's like, again, I come from a sports background, so a lot of my analogies come from sports. So it's like, what team do you belong to? What jersey do you have on that you say this is my community? And your community is going to be moving in a certain direction, and the goal, kind of like this in the sport, is the goal is a championship. Well, the goal and the team that I play for, that I'm down with, is Anu. This is my community. And then Anu, you unify with everybody else that is around you. Now, sometimes, just like in a team setting, you got to know what your role is, though. And sometimes your other teammates will point out to you when you're slipping, because the goal is to get out of this mess and this garbage and this, of what society has fed us. And your teammates will point out to you when you're not being the deity that they see that you should be becoming. And I think that's tough for us to sometimes take in, because we feel like if we're on the same team, then we can't, somebody can't hold me accountable. And that's the biggest thing that I see is accountability. When people come to different groups and organizations, they don't want to hold themselves accountable, but then hold everybody else accountable at the same time. I think I'm just talking in a circle right there. So I'm going to let somebody else go ahead.
No, brother. No, you're saying just what needed to be said. I mean, in terms of the question of, who do you unify with? Unify with those that have a similar mission to yours, those that are moving in the same direction, that want the same end goal and result. Because those are the people that are going to be working with you, that are going to be fighting with you, that are going to be doing what it takes to be necessary to get to that point. And what that means is people really being honest about, what brings them to any organization. When you join an organization, you should know what you're joining. I mean, there's actually a great scene in Malcolm X where the young brother comes into the diner and he's talking to Malcolm and he's like, man, Brother Malcolm, I never seen nobody talk like the way you talk. And, if being a Muslim is what you are, then that's what I want to be. And the first thing that Malcolm says to him is he says, well, do you know what it means to be a Muslim? Have you done the studies? Have you done the teachings? Do you know who Elijah Muhammad is? Do you understand the sacrifices that have to be made? And the brother got a little dejected because he realized that he didn't know those things. And so then what Brother Malcolm said to him was basically, or in the movie what was said to him was basically, well, why don't you come down to the mosque, learn the teachings. You have your attitude is right. We need more young brothers like you. We just want to make sure that your mind and your heart are in alignment with each other. And he didn't say that part. I just added that part on the end. But, that's important. That's important because, if you want, it's good to have that emotional energy around wanting to join something. But you also want to unify that heart with that head and say, okay, but what is it that I'm joining? And how is it that I'm joining this thing? And what does it mean to join these things? And I think that when the heart and the head is in alignment, that's where the unity comes in, because you're unified in yourself. So if you're unified in yourself, then you can unify with others as well, and then you know who you should be in unity with.
So let me ask you this, Brother Charles. And what if somebody says that they don't feel like they need to unify, and they feel like, you know what? I feel like it's Game of Thrones, and it's every man for himself out here.
Yeah, well, then that person is bought into the culture. They've bought into the dominant Western culture, and they're going to get chewed up and grinded up with it. And history has shown that that's exactly what's going to happen. So, I mean, they're going to learn that lesson as well, because this is the dog eat dog culture. That is where it is, and that's why it's people in the streets with nothing to eat on one block, and people living in houses with more rooms than they can stay in at one time. It's why people have nothing to, some people walk around on feet, and other people are riding around in vehicles that can seat 18 people, and it's just them in the car. That's the dog-eat-dog society. So if you want to be a part of that, then that's fine, but you're going to take everything that comes with that society too. And you're going to learn, and maybe you're going to be the person in the 18-passenger seat vehicle, but you're probably going to end up being the person that's just footing it, because that's how this game is being played. So, what is it? The self-preservation is group preservation?
That's what I was just thinking of, yeah.
I think that's something that we've all been told, and it's true. And, as African people, being communal is at the essence of who we are. African culture is a communal culture. That's why it survived. That's why it survives to this day, despite numerous attempts to try to destroy it from numerous foes across the country, across the globe, since the beginning of time, because it relies on the group working together. So if you, as a person of African descent, are buying into an individualistic society and culture, you are going to get gobbled up by it. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just a matter of time. That's what I would say to that person.
Absolutely. And Chief even said that in one of the videos, that we learn collectively as a group. So that would be why the unity is a necessary component for the African culture, because many of us are isolated.
Yeah,
and I
think you were saying something about. I just kind of want to jump on what Brother Charles was saying. I was watching this YouTube series, and I think it was called. It was like a Jewish series. Everybody has a web series now, and I think it's called Kosher something. I can't remember the name of it, but it gave us a peek inside the Hasidic world. And, they introduce you to different families, and they kind of show you what life is like for them and everything. And it reminded me of something that Chief said, is like when you're unified and you have that collective goal or a collective, imperative, like you have to instill something within the people of that culture, that you're special. You're not like all the outsiders. And when I was watching this series, it's like that's exactly what it looked like. Like they live in their own little bubble, huge bubble. As a matter of fact, this was actually, I think this was a series out of Manchester, and they were just saying, given a history, like how long, what they had to do once, to build that community. They had been there for like 200 or 300 years. How the culture is passed down, and just watching how life. Just watching how they interact with each other and support each other was just really interesting to see. And I was just, kind of thinking to myself, like, what does it take to get to that point with, within the United States, because you see them here as well. I actually had the opportunity to go through a particular neighborhood that had kind of been taken over by Hasidic Jews, and it caused a bit of controversy within that town. But I mean, to see how they just came in, took over, and it just spread for like blocks. It's like a temple on every corner. They have their own grocery stores. They have their own hospital. They have all of these things. Just and then to watch as I was passing through, they're looking at me like, I'm out of place.
You're in the wrong neighborhood, right?
You're in the wrong neighborhood. Like, what are you doing?
What set you from?
Right. And so it just made me think of like what Chief said. Like, even with the children, they look at you like, What are you doing over here? You're not one, like you're the oddball here. And it was interesting because the town was a historically black town, but they just kind of pushed those people out. So, they looking at me like I'm wrong. But it's like that superiority that has kind of been infused into the culture, and this pride that they have that they know, like, no, we're special. You're the one that's off. Down to the children, like 5, 6-year-old kids. They don't think, nothing about what they do is strange. It's strange to us maybe, but it's like they look at you that way. So how do you get to that? How do you, I guess, bring that type of pride into a group of people? Once we kind of identify that this is what we're doing, this is the goal that we're following. How do you instill that pride, within that group? How do you get to that point?
See, I feel like that's part of. So, I was just going to say, quick comment, that's really part of culture. Like when you get down to the point of seeing it trickle through the generations of the children, and the children have such a profound perspective of what their reality is that meshes 1,000% with the adults, then you have your culture. Whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, their culture is very defined. So I think it's one of those things where you have to start with looking at, well, what's the purpose of this community anyway? Because there is no unity without knowing why we're coming together in the first place. So the culture has to be super strong and really defined, and everyone has to see their place in it and how they participate.
That's true. Well, I was thinking that a lot of that depends on the mission statement of the team. Like, are we playing to win a championship, or are we just playing for draft picks and to sell tickets? Because, like, we know there's a lot of people who do stuff just to get the attention and notoriety and profit from it, but there's very few people that want to win. And a prime example of that is, it's football season, and I don't know how people feel about football, but the difference between the Raiders.
Oh, speak on it, brother.
The Raiders in the late '80s and the Cowboys. The Raiders was win baby win when John Madden was there and they was winning. The Cowboys was like, we America's team. They played for draft picks and ticket sales. And you look at what it did to that franchise. So I think having the defined mission statement along with what you're doing will help you choose who you want to unify with, because you can get on the team easy and be like, look, we're going to go out here, we're going to entertain the fans, we're going to get this money, we're going to get this, this high-profile athlete. Yeah, he's controversial. Yeah, he's dynamic, but, he's going to put tickets in the seat. Or we can take that money and get four receivers we know can ball and actually win. Don't nobody know them, so we're not getting as many ticket sales, but we going to come back with the ring, which is, what's more important, the money or the end goal. So I think that's what.
But you know,
Brother Dietrich,
there's something that you just.
I was going to say, that kind of goes back to the show Chief did on the 4, archetypes, Brother Dietrich. We need that person too. We need people to fill the seats. We need, we're trying to build a community. We need money. So you may have a member of your team that's good at that can put the people in the seats so that we can even have the football game to begin with. Because if nobody's paying to see it, there's no game. So I think it goes back to recognizing all those different archetypes: the warrior, the wizard, the priest, the thief, the hunter. So I think that we need all of that, because we can see, in the example I was using about the Hasidics, we can see the big picture. We see the big communities, the hospitals, the grocery stores, the transit system, the temple on every corner. But to develop, it goes down to the smallest thing, the smallest detail, which is, the family unit. So, you got to kind of get 2 or 3 people together first to start the thing so that it can expand out. But I don't think that we can say we need one more than the other. Because just like he was saying, in the show on the 4 archetypes, you need all of them. You need that warrior that's ain't concerned with chit-chatting all the time and, like Chief said, pontificating all the time. They just want to get it done. So it's a time when you got to send that person in. There's a time when you have to have the priest who's going to get everybody inspired and, to come together and, to get everybody together. You got the thief that's going to kind of find different ways to do things, that come up with some different innovative solutions. And then you have, the magician or the wizard, that's manipulating, consciousness and things. So I don't think one is less important than the other. You got to have those people who can put butts in the seat,
Well, true. It's the reason that you got them.
I think he was saying the purpose.
Yeah. Are you playing to win? Or are you playing to make money? Because we know a lot of organizations is not set up for us to win. It's just there for spectators. So, like everything that you're saying, like the temple, the business, the family, they're doing that because they're trying to win. They're not trying to get adoration. They're not making a spectacle of it. They're playing to win, and that's what they're doing. Whereas, with a lot of the black organizations and movements, 90% of it is just to show people what you're doing. They're not really playing to win. They're playing to get the energy and the spectators and, and the support. But you really don't have the mission statement ain't to win. Your mission statement is to just get whatever you claim you lost back. So I think to answer your question, the reason that they can do that is because their end result, regardless of whatever means it takes, is to win. And that's why I use the Cowboys and the Raiders. The Raiders wanted to win. The only person people knew on that Raiders championship team was Bo Jackson. Don't nobody know the rest of them because they was really playing to win. So you're absolutely right. It takes all of those archetypes to get stuff done. The question is, why are you bringing these archetypes together? Do you want to just have, like I said, a product to present to people to get them to watch what you're doing, or are you using them to win? That's like more like what I was referring to, because that's what I feel. Well, let me just
jump in and just
I'm sorry.
about.
I'm sorry, Brother Charles. One more time. I always keep interrupting you. People are raising their hands, like right. You get ready to say. I just don't want to lose this caller.
We're here for the people, man. We're here for the people. Let's bring the next call in.
Thank you, Brother D.
443. Greetings.
Yes, hello?
Yes.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm sorry for missing to speak to you guys. I've been so listening to everything everyone's been saying, going back and forth. I just had a comment, just based on my own experience with unity in general. I've noticed that it's easier to unify around something that doesn't have an element to it that you don't want to unify with. And recently, with everything that's been going on in politics, everyone's been asking me, for instance, to vote for one candidate because of one thing. And although that thing, I guess, is true, I don't want to unify with that candidate because I'm not in unity with several other things that they're involved with. And I guess I've noticed that, well, if that's the case with everyone, then we have a really big problem when it comes to unity just in general with communities. Like, I've gotten to a point where I've unified with people simply on the strength of one thing, because if I focus on anything else, I couldn't be unified with them. And to some degree that it helps, but then to another degree I feel like that's just another, I guess, excuse an excuse to not unify. But people fall victim to it all the time. And that's my biggest challenge personally with unification in my personal life and then in communities. And I just think that if maybe that question could be disseminated, then some of the other issues that we may have may not be issues anymore. That's just my comment.
What's the thing that you unify with people about?
Say that again.
So what you said that there's like something that you usually find one thing that you can unify with people about. What's that one thing?
Like for instance, in my community where my dad used to live at, I don't live there anymore. I live in another community now that I don't feel it's my community. I'm new here, but in my old community, I unified around the fact that everyone there was in the same boat, in a sense, whether or not they were, Caucasian or black or, Hispanic. We were all one community in the same boat. Like everyone pretty much was in the same need of the same things in life. And then there was a sub-unity with black people in that same community, just simply rallied around the idea that we're all in the same struggle because we're all the same as far as like our ethnicity. That seemed to be the most baseline idea that, at least me personally, I could rally around, despite the fact that, okay, there's some people in the community that believe in certain things that I myself don't feel that I want to participate in personally, or I want to wear as a banner. Like, I'm not going to do that. So I guess I would, in a sense, let that be separate from what I want to unify with, but I found that to be problematic because to be separate and then unified at the same time, that's a contradiction. So that's been my struggle personally.
When I hear you speak, is a lot of, I think that's the challenge for many of us, and the reason why we have to have some sense of community and some sense of direction. Because a lot of times, if you just walk, a lot of people want you to join and go a direction that has absolutely nothing to do with it. And I think this society tells us, oh yeah, you should join this group or this other group, and we're all fighting. We're all in the same boat. I don't know where your boat is going. I don't know who's in this boat. I don't even know who that dude over there who got that paddle. I've never seen him in my life. Like, I don't know this dude. So what is this whole plan? And I think that's the whole. You kind of just hit the nail on it. That's the reason for having a community. For having some unity with each other is to know what direction we're going in. And kind of Sister Kim kind of said it when she was watching the video, is now we start to create our own history. I think that's very detrimental to it. We don't even know that we're in a game, that we're in, and we don't even know that, we got to look at this and say, we're losing. We're getting our butts handed to us, so now we have to regroup and come up with another plan so that, therefore, we just don't keep aiming for a target that's in the dark. We got to put our target bring it to the light, and then we can start to get that Ochosi and start to finally get some direction in where we're going. And I think when we don't have any direction, and then it's so more susceptible to kind of like what Brother Charles said, it's like a banana with no peel. You're susceptible to the way the wind blows. That's like not having a culture. I think that was the analogy that's used, Brother Charles. And when we don't have one, then we start to get into this, okay, well, I'm in this group, or I'm in this community, and we might have black people, white people, Chinese. We got all of these different cultures over here. But then all of a sudden, you find out that this direction that this boat that I was rowing in has nothing to do with what I want, the direction that I want to go in, or the direction that I want for my children to go in. And if you don't have a sense of history, your history tells you everything that you need to know about your group, everything you need to know about how you deal with other people, your social, your economics, your entertainment. And if you don't have one, then they're going to give you one, and they're going to start telling you that you don't know what direction you're going in. So lean on us for your answers. So I think, I hear what you're saying, but I think that's, it's a very dangerous situation to be in. I think that speaks to why we really, really need to unify and start to have some sense of community. So come on in to the new.
The other thing too, man, which Brother Zach is hitting on is that, you can't really decide who you're going to unify with without an understanding of your shared culture. And part of that is the shared history that you have with people. When you were talking about the example of the original group of people you were with, you said that at first they were all able to get together despite any kind of racial, differences, and then there was a sub-black group that was formed. And so when I heard that part, that made me think, well, then, there had to be something else that was also important to another set of people that made them coalesce in a different way. And, the reality is that, at this point in 2016, there's a group for everybody. There's a group for everybody. There's a place for you to fit in. And so you being able to fit into or figure out where you fit in really is about understanding who you are, where you come from, and ultimately where you want to go. Because that's what all this is really about, legacy. You know, when Brother D was talking about the part about, the Cowboys and the Raiders and all that, at the end of the day, it's a legacy. At the end of the day, you want to win because you want to be great forever. And you want to be great after the time when you're not even here anymore. And that's where the children come in. When Sister Kim was talking about, looking at the different communities and how even the children react and treat you, that's the purpose of all this. The purpose of all this for the children. Everybody that's on this phone call right now, most of us are in our 30s, close to 40, might be older than that, might be a little bit younger than that. But, our time, we're almost to a point where there's less years in front of us than there are behind us. Before our children, that's what this is all about. That's what this work is for. We're unifying to protect children, to protect the legacy, to protect these ideas so that those things live on after us. And so when we make this journey, depending on how you believe, if you make this journey back here, then you're making this journey back into something that's valuable, back into something that's hopefully a better situation than when you left it. They say the Native Americans think about their decisions and try to base their decisions on what's going to happen 7 generations down the line. That's about legacy. That's about thinking about what happens when you, decide to put an iPad in the hand of a 3-year-old child, or what happens when, you let your daughter watch a television show and all the characters don't look like her, or you let your son decide that, him being grown up to be a man looks like something that you wouldn't even consider to be a man right now. That's legacy. That's where the culture comes in, because the culture is what's going to support the ideas for how your children are going to be. And you're unifying to protect the children. Unity is a protection. That means that you can be safe. I know if I'm out somewhere with Brother Zach, I'm going to be safe. I know if I'm somewhere with Sister Taya, I'm going to be safe because I know that we're on the same, we have the same goal. We're about the unity. We're unifying ourselves. We're unifying with others because we want to protect the children. We want to protect the legacy. And that's what that's like the point of this whole thing. You can dress up any way you want to, but that's what this is all about. I have a child. I want her to be okay. I want her life to be better than mine is. I want her to live in a better world. So I got to get with people that are trying to make that happen.
Definitely see your point. Very good point.
Do you have a family, sister?
I do have a family. It's not very big. A lot of people having only one child in my family. But I do have one. I have 3 children of my own, though.
Okay, and you got a good sense of direction of where you guys are headed?
I'll say we have a sense of direction in terms of at least everyone in the family accomplishing something. Now, I do mean that literally, something. Can't be without accomplishing something. And I've been trying my best to turn that around. But there's something from my great-grandparents to my grandparents to my parents to me. So we've all had some things we've accomplished in the family, but I guess at this point I'm starting to learn that I have to go beyond just something just so we can continue on, I guess, the trend of the family. And I don't mean tradition because I don't see it as a tradition of, wealth, frankly, and I'm not ashamed of that. That's not a tradition of wealth for me. So trying to change that myself, and actually I am going to change that with my children, so I have to change myself first. I'm working on me, and I'm hoping that other family members will, follow my lead, but, that's a hope.
Let me ask you this. Is this your immediate family? When I say direction, I mean like the direction where your man is, the direction he's going in is what I'm asking.
Well, I'm not married. My parents were married. They're divorced,
okay.
But they're still good friends. And my grandparents, same thing. Great-grandparents were married. And we all have a similar direction in terms of what we are trying to accomplish in our personal lives. For me, because I don't have a partner to engage with right now, I guess I've kept myself at a point where at least when I do get one, that person will walk in on something worth walking in on. And we can continue to build from there. But in the meantime, kids are getting older, so they need at least a cognitive understanding that, I see my mom trying to make something of herself and actually go beyond her parents and her grandparents, and I have to go beyond her and all of them too. So I try to tell my children, hey, you must be more successful than me, no matter what you see me do. And I keep drilling that into them, at least so that it'll be in their subconscious that, hey, if my mom has this, I got to have that plus.
So do you have little boys as well as girls, or you have all girls?
I have both. I have a girl and 2 boys.
Okay. So this is, when you're talking, this was just what was coming into my head. There's a saying that goes, ain't never been there, can't tell going there how to get there. And I think that's really the reason why we have a community, and we have a women's group, we have a men's group, and, you have little boys who are under their training. You got to train them up to grow as men. And I think a lot of times what we see in our society, a lot of women channel too much of their masculinity because there is no man around. So this is really the need for a community where there is men around, where one could train these or educate them on who and what they are. And when you have to step in and try to play both sides of the fence, then it just starts to, it's just draining on you, and B, it's tough because how can you teach her? That's like me trying to teach a woman how, everything to know about being a woman, and I've never been one. Like, then things start to become distorted in that sense. So, you're really just speaking and hitting on a lot of the points of really what we're talking about, and the necessity and need for a community. Because once we start doing that, then the lines start to get blurred, and then we just start to go in different directions. So I would just say, come on home. Come on home.
I'll say that closest I've came to trying to implement the male, because I haven't tried to do the male thing. I don't even know how, so I haven't tried. But the closest I've came is to just attend events that are, I guess, speaking to me and, my ethnicity and my children and our culture, and just taking my kids with me and having them around other people, especially my boys, around other men that are speaking, that, are successful in what they're doing in their capacity, that have a different direction than maybe what, they might see on TV or in, the old neighborhood around the way. That's the most that I've done, at least that I feel might be impactful, just to have them around other men doing things and seeing how they act, their mannerisms. The only thing I guess I'll say for me, as far as like a community is concerned, that I make sure that my children understand that even though we may be separate in the sense that we might live a little different, because, mannerisms and the culture inside my house is very different than outside the house. We're still, in a sense, who we are, but, like with my boys specifically, I make sure that they learn old school mannerisms, like what my grandparents enforced on me. And people say, hey, why are you teaching your child to say that? We're past that. We might be, but it makes me as a woman feel good, and I'm raising my sons that way, at least from a culture when it was a little more preserved. It helps. So I definitely feel what you're saying as far as like the need for a community and things of that nature, especially for children watching growing up. In my case, and I'm a very outlier type of situation, I have to actually go to that community. I'm not in it, so I have to go that extra mile. And with everything going virtual nowadays, that's getting harder, but definitely still need that sense. But my issue specifically here was that I've noticed within myself that I'll go to a community and I'll like the community, but then there's certain things that I personally can't support, so I feel a little uneasy about being part of that community, as if to say, well, I support this other thing too. Like, like with political parties, if you support one good thing this candidate thinks, they also support this, so in turn you support that too. That's just been my issue back and forth, and I've noticed that for a while now. But I've gotten to the point where I said, you know what, let me just hone down on this one central idea and go with that, because if I don't, I won't find myself anywhere. And I've noticed people complaining, too, about that in conversations. Like, you know, hey, you're part of this group, but did you know the leader back here did this? And, you know, the people who founded it, you know, they were suspiciously convicted of this, that, and the third. Like, it's just always something. So that's not a good thing. But
so sis, let me jump in here and just ask you a couple of questions. So, with your sons, how old are your sons?
One is 15, one is 6.
Okay. What's their relationship like with their father?
Well, they have different fathers, so their fathers are in their lives. One lives out of town, but they're both in their lives pretty frequently, either throughout the week or throughout the school semester or the summers. But they're there.
So the fathers are working with their sons. They're giving them ideas about and impressions about what it means to be a man. Is that correct?
Yes, in different ways. I'm not going to say in every way, you know, but there are some impressions that I would hope wouldn't be impressed upon my children by them, but I see it is. But I'm grateful that they're in their lives and that they love them, so I don't make too much of a deal over the things that my son sees in their dads that I might not want them to see in a man per se as what they should be, but yeah, that's the scope of that.
Okay, it's a lot of background noise too. Is that coming from your phone?
I can hear some background noise.
Okay.
Okay, all right, it's going now. So the reason why I'm asking that is because with the 15-year-old and with the 6-year-old, are they into sports? Are they playing sports whatsoever?
My 15-year-old is heavy into sports. He hasn't made up his mind what he wants to do with that because he's in like maybe 4 or 5. My little son, he's just pretty much into magic spells.
Okay. All right. Look, this is the thing. Like we always talk about, you know, what our spiritual work has to be natural, right? And I think our child rearing also has to flow naturally. You know, when you're saying that you want your sons to learn what it is to be a man, you got to put them around spaces where there are men. And the reality is that some of those men's spaces and those male spaces aren't going to be spaces that are really for you. You know, sports is a natural place for that. You know, sports is a space and a place where men come together, and we share everything that it is to be a man. Some of those things are things that women and really like. Some of them are not. But whatever the case may be, those are uniquely male things, and they're a part of that growth process. You know, if you're doing the job raising your son and your son's fathers are doing the jobs raising them, then you're giving them an internal framework to decide what they want to take in and what they don't. You know, one of the things one of my mentors said is that, you know, you always have the ability to accept or reject, you know, but you can accept or reject with respect. So it's like basically, you know, you have to put your son in those situations where he can be around men. Sports is a great natural way to do that. You know, the fathers are in their lives, that's fantastic because that's going to give them some male energy too. You know, nothing that anybody's going to give you is going to be 100% anything. It's always going to be a mixture of some parts of it is going to be good, some parts of it might not be so good, but it's all part of a learning lesson. So you have to trust that process is going to work in their favor. And you got to put your sons in positions where men can be around them, and that can't always be coddled and guided by you, because you know they got to be around some dudes, and sometimes dudes are rough, sometimes dudes are inappropriate, sometimes we're very appropriate, all those things. But I think the sports is a very natural, easy way to do that, and it's all and you know the part of the community is the collection of individuals working together. Remember, one of the things we talked about at the beginning of this segment was that doesn't mean everybody's saying the same thing. You know, your grandparents, your grandfather, he might have been teaching a certain moral ethic that you want your sons to have. You know, their fathers might teach them a certain physical ethic, how to carry themselves, how to walk, how to talk, how to shake someone's hand, how to look someone in the eye. You know, the football coach, the basketball coach, teach them how to be a competitor, how to give it your all, how to work hard, how to accept winning, how to accept losing. all those things come together. You can't get any of the information on how to be you or how to be the best you from just one person or just one thing. You know, the last show that happened where Chief Speaks spoke to that you have to pull this information from all these parts, but you got to be comfortable with that, and you have to be willing to do that, because that's an important thing. You got sons in America right now that are young. They're on the front lines. You got to make sure that they're protected, and you also got to make sure that they're learning from everyone around them, from all the men around them. But you got to put them in those male spaces, and you got to be comfortable with that.
I want to also just jump in and contribute here. I see a lot of myself in you, sister. I am also a single mother of 3 children, and my children are older now. But I have to tell you, I am responsible for really screwing up their lives in a big way, because I thought I knew how to run their lives and how to lead the household. And without the presence of a man, they all have these very chaotic views. So I have led them into nothingness. And now I'm going back and trying to help them, you know, just give them what I know, what I've learned from Anu, so that they don't repeat that. And I'm hearing you say that from your great, like, grandparents on down, you know, where they maybe didn't stay together, but yes, they are still cool, but you're still trying to define, like, what it is you want. That's a very dangerous territory to play in. So I just want you to know, from another single mother, especially one that has a son, that is going to lead you into a path of nothingness. You're going to have a very difficult time, because you can't teach a man how to be a man. And even with girls, you can't really teach the girls without having the light of a man, because your role is not to lead. We are receptive. So you're in a dangerous place right now. So I really want you to focus your attention on how to get that light into your life, so that you have that guidance, because you're experiencing this discourse because you can't fit into some of these communities, like what Brother Charles was saying. Some things only men are supposed to do, and some things only women are supposed to do. So you're not going to feel that harmony. You're going to back out of it, and then your kids are going to see all these pieces of communities and not have any culture as they evolve and get older.
Right. Okay. Before you all go on, we have another caller on the line. I want to bring them in. 813. Welcome to Chief Speaks.
Alafia. This is Brother Anwar. How you guys doing?
Great. All right, brother.
What you got for us today?
No, I'm just saying thank you, giving thanks. You guys doing a wonderful job. Everything that we've been talking about this whole month, this whole strong, that it's been has been a enlightening conversation and a very eye-opening conversation for all of us to really combine and unify in a proper and correct term way. You know, going back to a lot of things that was referenced this month, we were speaking on how unity is dealing with the body, like how Chief referenced the body being multiple different organisms and all doing a certain thing, but all working together as one body. So that's one thing. That's one thing that spread the light. You guys have been sharing the information as today's show has been. And then we also, one other thing that stuck out to me, a couple things, one more thing that stuck out to me right now is men are intelligence and women are the magic. And he stated that a couple times this month. And those two elements, just both elements show how much we need each other, all as a community. Another thing was just even on a couple of the things that we were talking about with participation and how the 21-day cigar challenge came about, dealing with Sister Kim and the Eshu energy she was feeling. And then Chief comes in and speaks on the participation on the shows. And then this past Thursday show just was on fire. We just had so many people calling in. Brother Diedrich calling in. All those good things that happened inside those shows were just a good physical interpretation of what we were trying to accomplish as a unit this month. And I just, like I said, I'm just giving thanks and saying thank you for the work, thank you for the information, thank you for the help. And I'm pretty sure everybody can say that they're very much appreciative about the things that Any Nation brings forth.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Waz. Thanks. Let's see, we've got about 15 minutes left in the show. So if you all would like to call in and make a comment or have a question, make sure you press the number 1. The number is 347-945-7680. And I wanted to go back to 443 and ask, did any of the information, any of the advice or insight that you got, did it help out any?
Yes, it definitely helped out. I was contemplating it as soon as you guys went to the next caller. I think after hearing what you all said, I'll have to get a direction, even if I thought I had one. I'll have to get a better one and get my kids around a community that is geared towards them specifically, especially my boys, and get them involved without me necessarily being the ship captain. Not that I'm trying to be, but I feel like it's just me a lot. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to use that and try to implement that in several ways, not just, dealing with the kids directly, but a couple ways to get it to be a holistic thing, at least a part of my life ritual per se.
Can you give us one of those ways?
I think one way that I need to continue to do what you guys are saying, just in a different way, is like with the sister, she spoke about giving a sense of community that's not pieced out. And I've had that feeling before, based on what I called. She definitely spoke directly to that, and that's how I felt. So I know, okay, that's a problem now. So I'll have to kind of reel in some of the cherry picking that I do when it comes to communities, because sometimes I go to different events within different communities, and I guess I'm not necessarily a part of it in a total way, but I do support it when I go out. I give money if I'm there. If it's in my area, I'll go. Sometimes not, but I'll have to gather my thoughts on why I'm inside of a community or not, and if it's going in a direction, like the brother said, that I'm trying to go into, and not be so open-handed with that, because I have done that. So I know that's my issue, not my children. That's one way that I have to change that based on the advice you guys are giving me, because I know it's the truth. Second time I heard it out loud.
I just want to say thank you all for participating. If you'd like to mute your phone, that's fine. I'm just going to keep the lines open, those of you that have called in, so you can jump in at any time. We've got about 10 minutes left, and we're going to start to wrap things up a bit. So I just want to ask the panel about some steps towards establishing unity, and to try to help our callers out with some practical things to do. What can they start to do?
I think it definitely starts with recognizing what you are unifying with, and then doing a self-assessment to see kind of where those forces lie within you and who you have around you that can play the roles necessary to get to whatever it is you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, I would just say, look at your family. Especially if you have children or you're planning to have children one day, think about the world that you want them to inherit. That's what it's all really about. It's about trying to create the best situation possible for them. In order to do that, you're not going to be able to do that completely by yourself. You're going to need people with you, working with you to make that happen. That's going to come down to the person you choose to have children with. That's going to come down to the person that you choose to be with, that's going to turn out to the people that you align yourself with and those goals. But you got to be very, very circumspect about that, because that's what it's really all about. It's not about you. It's about them. You have to be able to make that transition and let that be the basis for where you're going. Are my decisions in alignment and in best interest of my family, of my children? And if you can look at that and you can find people that are also operating in that same mindset, then that's where you start your unity process. You'll figure the rest of the stuff out. You'll figure out, all the protocols that are going to go along with that. But that's the thing, because that's what we need right now, especially for people of African descent. Our families are all over the place. That's like the problem from my perspective that we have, is that the families are all over the place, and they're broken, and they're not functioning, and they're not operating, and as a result, no one is getting what they really need. The men aren't in the positions that they need to be in. The women aren't in the positions they need to be in, and the children aren't getting the support that they need. And that's a recipe for disaster and chaos, and that's what we're seeing every day. So, that's what I would say.
I think at the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day, one needs to know who and what you are. And if you don't know who and what you are, somebody will be more than happy to tell you. And I think it starts with listening to these shows that are in the archives and the ones that Chief produces, and also a new spiritual training phase 1, which will start to help you men, because at some point in time you have to see, you know what, I've been going and traveling in a direction for a long time that has gotten me nowhere, has led me to straight destruction, straight arguing with people that I shouldn't be, debating, just in a vacuum of confusion, and you would, at some point in time, you would think that you would want to leave your children in a better situation than what you did, because this whole system is making sure that everybody from each generation starts over. And you will want to have some sense of a community, some sense of unity, that, you know what, I'm going to leave my children in a better space, in a better place than what I had. And I got to acknowledge that, you know what, some of my elders, they screwed up. They messed up, and now I don't want to do the same thing that they did, because, again, that goes back to the definition of insanity. So now I have to leave, and I have to do something different, even if that means I have to break away from the group, because everybody must be moving in one direction. I may have to go over there and say, you know what, I got to do this to create it better. I got to do this for everybody. And even though they may not see it at the time, you'll see the fruits of it from later on down the road. But it's going to cause you to step up and say, you know what, this is not about me. This is bigger than me. This is for the group. Again, the greatest self-preservation is group preservation. And if your group is losing, you're losing. I don't care how much money you have in the bank. I don't care what you've done and all these personal accolades that you have. If the group is losing, you're losing. So if you can start to look at it in that sense, you'll start to put the necessary work in and make the necessary changes, so now you can start to unify.
Okay, in typical Chief Speaks fashion, we got a caller that just raised their hand. I'm going to go ahead and bring them in real quick. We got about 5 minutes left. I think this is an internet call or Skype call. Peace, you're on Chief Speaks.
Hi, Peace. It's Georgette again.
Okay.
Yeah. A part of the question that I think maybe a lot of people have, including myself, is there a prerequisite before joining a group? You know what I mean? Because we all are trying to heal. We're all are trying to correct ourselves. We're all are trying to better ourselves. Is that kind of like the prerequisite into working on self and then becoming a part of community? Or do you jump into the community and continue to work with? I mean, you're going to continually be working on yourself still, but do you know what I mean? Like, is there separation between the two? Right.
You join a community.
Yeah.
Character is shaped within community. That's what Chief always say. You can't see yourself by yourself. You can't see it. You can't see the thorn in the small of your back. So it's like, you have to join a community first, and then you can start to work those issues out. I think that's a huge problem we have. I even heard the caller say, I got to get myself together before I can bring someone else into this. That's the wrong thing to do. Because, first of all, you're not the one that's going to be leading. You have to join the man's world. The man is not joining your world. You're joining his. You're coming to him for guidance and for leadership. So, again, it goes back to like what you said. I forget the name of the show, but he said that character is shaped within the community. So we have to, you have to get with a community, and I think an excellent source for all of this, and I'm so sincere about it, is to pick up the book Solutions for Dysfunctional Families. There, not only does she explain the problem, down to the letter, but he gives you solutions, practical solutions, something that you can implement immediately before you even finish the book. So definitely pick that book up if you're really trying to straighten your situation out. But character is shaped within the community.
And something that stands out for me when she just said that is if you knew how to correct it and you knew what to do, then you wouldn't be even asking the question. So at some point in time, then you have to get with other people. With Sister Kim just said that, will point it out. I used to work at this gym, and people would come in there and be like, "Oh yeah, I want to, I'm ready to change and ready to get in shape and all of that." And you say, "Okay, well, where do you want to start your sessions?" "Well, you know what? I want to get in shape a little bit first before I come to you." If you knew how to do that, then you wouldn't be even over here talking to me right now. Like, that's almost like somebody needing heart surgery and saying, "You know what, I'm going to get in shape before I go get surgery just to make sure." You wouldn't say that then, would you? You would be like, "No, okay, let's go ahead and do the surgery and fix the problem." But then when we come to now, our ego tells us that, you know what, I'm just going to go into myself and get all of the answers because all of the answers are inside. The answers are not inside. You got a lot of wrong answers inside. There's answers in there, but not the answers that you can use. And it takes a community, and again, coming back, telling yourself the truth, saying that you don't know, and then going to a community that can help you point out some of these issues that you can start to start to mend and start to heal and then start to build a stronger community. But a lot of times we don't want to go into that situation because we don't want nobody else to point out what we've been trying to cover up, our sicknesses that we've been covering up for so long. So we just hide, and we don't press the number one, and we sit back, and we just wait till the end, and then we say, "Oh, yeah, well, I tried, but I guess they didn't get through. I'll wait till next month," because you don't want to come out into the light. So, at some point in time, we all just you got to put down the ego. It's a serious thing that will try to cover you and defend you and keep what it is and look for a problem outside of self. So, and the community can help point that out and pull that out and say, "Nah, it's time to become a different."
Right. And you also have to accept and have faith in the mission of the group as given by the leader of that group. And that can be a big group or that can be your household. Going back to family, that's a problem that a lot of women have, and why we end up having these broken homes, where the children are separated from the father because women can't submit to the leader that they chose. You chose that. And so now you got problems with it. So, you can't follow. You don't have faith in that leader. So, like Chief always says, you should have laid down with the man and created the baby. Because now you got to clean that mess up. And now you're going to go somewhere else and go somewhere else and go somewhere else. And now you're in a total state of chaos, which is a woman's natural space. Completely chaotic. That's what the man is there to provide some direction and bring some order to the situation. But a lot of times we don't want to submit. So then when we're broken and our families are broken, now we're going all over the place searching for a community. Well, let me go over here. Well, yeah, I like that, but I don't like that. Yeah, I like this, but nah, I can't get with that. You're recreating the same problem from your household. Now you're unleashing it on the world. You're hopping around all over the place. You don't want to submit or have faith in anybody because you think you know better, and you don't. That's why, like Zach said, we have problems in the situations that we have. So you gotta submit. If you choose something, you're gonna have to submit to it. If it doesn't work out, you have to try it again. But you gotta have faith in the leader that you chose, and you have to trust that. And stop, just kind of bouncing all around and trying to pick and choose what you want, after you've made the huge commitment. So it may sound harsh, but that's what it is. That's why we break up our families. That's why, we can't keep a family together, because we don't want to submit to the leader that we chose. Always remember that you picked it. You picked them. This is the community that you chose to be a part of. You chose it. So, have faith in it. We're starting to go into archives right now. The show is actually ended, so those of you that are on the line, stay on the line. And did anyone else have a comment before we close?
What you just were saying, Sister Kim, is, we live in a society that tells you don't have to submit. What you got was just a half love. That wasn't full love. And this brother was all over the place. And he doesn't know, and he wasn't reared by a man. So don't worry, sister. You just keep going in the direction you're going in. The universe is going to supply you with everything that you need. And you don't actually have to make a change. You don't have to do anything but become more of a stronger leader than what you already are, sister. Hold on, because you're going to fix this.
Right.
Yeah. Well, that is the reason why we're going in the direction that we're going in. And at some point in time, you have to accept the truth about yourself, and it's not going to come from you. And you got to understand that life is going to go on with or without you. So you better start to, again, lay your sword down, lay your ego down. Stop trying to fight the very same people that want to help and build community with you, and say, you know what, I don't know it all. It's a humility. If you go back from the whole beginning of this year to now, Chief lays it all out of the stumbling blocks that one is going to get to when they join a community. Accountability, you got to be accountable. Humility, can you humble yourself to say, I don't know it. These are all the things that are laid out. So if you just go back and replay it and listen and really take heed to what is being said and really start to look at yourself in the mirror and say, you know what, it's best that I am in a community. It's best that I can take some direction, because, I don't know it. Then you can start to go in different directions, and then leave your children in a better space than what you were given yourself.
All right, so there you have it. Zach has spoken. And with that, we're gonna go ahead and close the show. Again, thank you to all the callers, everyone that called in and shared. And I want to shout out Georgette for leading the way. She's also called in a few times on the community show, and I just want to say thanks to her, because I know that was kind of huge for her. She usually kind of plays the back a little bit. So thanks for sharing, Georgette, and coming forth and being a bit more open with the group, as well as all of our callers, Dietrich, Anwar, everyone else that called in. Thank you, and make sure you have your questions ready for next month's end of the month show, and make sure you tune into Community Radio, Chief Speaks. Go back, check the archives. If you have questions, Chief has covered so many topics. I'm pretty sure that whatever question you have, he's already answered it in the show. And make sure you visit SaduluHouse.com so you can sign up for classes. Go to anewlifeglobal.org to join the community. And until next month, peace.
Peace.
Peace. Peace to the chief.